Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on my knitting channel Nikitinaknits. My name is Evgeniya and in this video I would love to share with you 15 best alternatives for mohair I could find on the market. The most famous mohair replacement we could see online is Alpaca, mostly hand-dyed. And in this case, I'm not going to be speaking about hand-dyed yarns at all. All of them are commercial and publicly available, even though they're expensive because today we're speaking about a luxurious segment of yarn, but they're not crazy expensive like some of the hand-dyed yarns are. By the way, none of these yarns are sponsored or promoted in any way. These are my personal wishes and recommendations and my personal research. And also, as we're speaking about mohair alternatives, I decided to wear my cardigan that is needed 100% of Suri alpaca base, but a thick version of it. I'm going to speak later about Suri alpaca today. And if you want to know how this cardigan was knitted, go in my podcast number 1 and check it out. I'll leave the link in the description box below. So with that being said, let's begin with the first mohair alternative, which is a Length Cashmere Dreams. This is a 65% brushed cashmere and 35% silk. It has 290 meters per 25 grams, and this is a brushed cashmere. This is a pure dream, exactly cashmere dreams to try. I never tried this specific brushed cashmere on silk from this brand, but I did try brushed cashmere on silk from a different brand, and I can definitely say it is worth it. If you look online for the price, it looks expensive, but actually for 25 grams, you're getting 290 meters, which is more than traditional mohair meterage, which is 212 meters on average. So I think it is a fair price, and it could be easily replacing mohair. I would love to try this cashmere. I think it's very available yarn. I think you can buy it both in the US and in Europe or anywhere else, even in Ukraine. I'm from Ukraine, so we can find Lang everywhere. When I open their color palette, I'm going crazy. You know, it's beautiful. There's so many beautiful dusty shades, which I'm in love with, and I'm definitely going to try this option. Next option is Gepard Cashmere Lace. I actually have this yarn in my stash for my winter plans. I actually recorded winter plans as a last video. Check it out if you're curious. Gepard Cashmere Lace is a pure cashmere which is not brushed. It is spun. I think it's 2 strands that are spun carefully together, and per 25 grams you're getting 350 meters. I think it's an extremely affordable price if you think like for the whole garment you might be needing 3 skeins or max 4 skeins depending on the size or the thickness of the yarn that you're using. So for example, I'm not a fan of very oversized sweaters, and I'm using usually XS or double XS sizes, and on average I would need 3 skeins of such yarn, which I think is an amazing option. This type of cashmere is not so fuzzy and fluffy, but it does fluffs up after the blocking a little bit, and with each wash is going to open up more and more a little bit, filling up the gates between the stitches. So make sure that when you knit with this alternative, you leave a little bit of air, a little bit of breathability between stitches, because with a few more washings it's going to open up a little bit more. So it has a beautiful color palette as well. I would love to try more of them. I have a bright blue option from this yarn for my future Patura sweater, and I'm so excited to cast on. The next yarn I actually saw in my Knitting Friends knitting podcast, Lana. I'm going to mention her name on the screen. I saw her brushed cashmere. She's going to knit a sweater actually with this yarn. She was showing this yarn as her future plans for winter. It's a brushed cashmere with silk as well, similar to Length Cashmere Dreams. The brand is Garna Yarns, and the yarn is called Cumulus Cashmere Silk. And when I went to their website, I could not find the English option of the website. I don't know if it's a Dutch or German language, but maybe I'm missing something, but I couldn't find any English version of the website. Also, their Instagram is in this language and the Facebook. But I think if you live in Europe, this is going to be easy to get. It looks beautiful. Basically, it's 74% brushed cashmere and 26% silk. And it has 300 meters per 25 grams, which is an extremely beautiful meterage. So it is very similar to Length Cashmere Dreams, but also different colors, different brand, different experience. And maybe if you want to support local producers of yarn and you live around where this yarn was produced, this could be an extremely beautiful option. The color palette is quite minimalistic, but it is enough to be satisfied. I think it's more than enough for people who love very basic neutrals and people who love color. You have cool tones, you have warm tones. I personally saw already a few colors I would love to try, and yeah, I just don't know when to find time to try all of these beautiful yarns. The next option is Cashmere Haze by Rowan. This is a 40% alpaca, 30% cashmere, and 30% silk. It has 230 meters per 25 grams. And it is a little bit expensive. I think the average price is between 19 and 22 euros, depending where you look at it. And to be honest, I think it's a little bit too expensive for the amount of meters and for the content of the yarns, but still it is a mohair alternative. And especially if you live in England or somewhere around, you could find this yarn on discount in a few shops or even online. And I would personally still try this yarn because Rowan is a high quality brand and it is also produced here in Europe. So yeah, I would definitely be trying this. The color palette is not so wide, but still the colors are very pleasant and beautiful. As for me, I already found a few that I would love to try. And visually, actually, it very much looks like mohair because of this perfect blend. And alpaca with cashmere I've never tried before in one single strand. The next yarn is Henna by Permin. This is a 50% merino wool. I imagine it's a brushed merino wool. Brushed means when you brush the undercoat of the animal and then spun it into the yarn very carefully. So 50% merino wool, 30% silk, and 20% cashmere. The yarn looks so fuzzy and beautifully fluffy that I think cashmere is also brushed. This yarn gives you 275 meters per 25 grams, and I think it's a really beautiful option. I would definitely be trying it. And the color palette is incredible. You have bright colors, you have dusty colors. They're so tasty, beautiful. There's a lot of greens that I'm already seeing that I would love to try, and beiges and very cold brown colors, like a lot of things that I truly love. So I think you could definitely find something for yourself. And by the way, if you try this yarn, please let me know in the comments because I would love to try this as a next mohair alternative for myself. The next yarn I'm knitting so much with is Cariaggi Sense. If you watch my podcast, you can see me knitting with this yarn so many times. This is an Italian yarn and cone. It is a bit harder to get or find than most commercial yarns because this is a yarn from the factory of Italian brand Cariaggi, but it's still very, very possible and easy to find. There's a lot of shops on Etsy that sell Cariaggi Sense. There's a lot of shops in Europe, in Germany, in Lithuania, or the whole Eastern Europe is also popular for that. So just Google it and I'm sure you will have some success. And the contents of the yarn is 79% brushed cashmere, 19% silk, and 10% elastan. Elastan gives this little elasticity to the thread, which is quite good because with the time every garment stretches out a little bit, and this 10% of elastan is going to hold your garment in shape for many years. So I have a huge cone of this yarn. It's actually there behind me, and I'm going to be knitting more and more with this. For now it's actually a bit more affordable to get comparing to, let's say, Lank cashmere or other options that I spoke before, because it is an Italian yarn that is from the factory, and you can even get it from the very past collections that are usually sold with discounts. So make a little research and enjoy Cariaggi Sense. This is one of my favorite yarns. The next mohair alternative is Lana Grossa's Soffio, and this is a budget-friendly option. I could find this yarn for 620 euro per ball, which is quite amazing, and I will tell you why. The reason to that is that is 60% brushed merino wool, 30% cotton, and 10% cashmere. So because cotton is used instead of silk, this whole yarn is way cheaper. I personally don't mind so much if it's silk or cotton. Of course, silk is more luxurious option, but sometimes it makes sense to spend a little bit less on yarn, and especially if the first thread is expensive. And I find it a very smart idea. I'm looking right now at the color palette, and I could say that it's a very balanced mixed palette where you have bright colors, dusty colors. It's not a huge range of colors, but I already see a few like this very cold purple color. I would love very beautiful dusty blue minty color as well. There's not so many cold whites or cold grays, but I'm sure every person could find at least one color that they would like to knit with. 215 meters per 25 grams. I think it's very standard meterage. So yeah, here you have another mohair replacement. The next option I touched in the yarn shop in France, and I'm so much in love with this, it's just there in my mind waiting for me to try it, is Exquisite lace weight yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners. It's 80% Falkland wool and 20% mulberry silk, but it's not that is one thread and then the wool is wrapped. It's not like that. It's all blend together. So when I touched the yarn in the yarn shop, it was quite drapey, quite smooth and shiny, but very much lightweight and matte at the same time. It is very unique yarn and I fell in love so much, but it just didn't have any project in mind. That's why I didn't want to stash it, you know, just because I like it. So it's still in my dreams. And you have 100 grams skeins. Unfortunately, they don't sell, at least now I couldn't find different weights of yarns. So they only sell 100 grams hanks. And each 100 gram hank has 800 meters, which is 200 meters per 25 grams. I'm looking at the color palette and I'm melting, you know. There's a color 337. I would love to knit for this. It's very icy mint. There is a dusty purple 525 color. There is a very cold greenish camel, which is 521, and many different other colors that I would love to knit with. So Falkland wool is a very, very, very soft yarn. It's very warm. It is super lightweight and is breathable. I think is a gold that I could find on the market, and I would love to knit a whole garment in the Falkland wool. It is quite pricey, but I think it's definitely worth it. I will be honest with you, I think it's better than Cashmere. I'm a big fan of Cashmere, but I had to say that. Yeah, I'm in love. I really recommend trying, and West Yorkshire Spinners is one of my favorite brands, and I'm just impressed so much with their quality, and it is on my list to try. The next mohair alternative is baby yak. I love yak so much. I already have medium weight of this yarn. I showed it in my knitting plans. You could check it out. It's my last video. Besides that, it's soft in the skein. It blooms so much after each washing and open up more and more. The brand is called Tibetan Fibers, or they also call themselves mYak or mYak. I don't know exactly how to call it. So I'll call them Tibetan Fibers. It's 100% baby yak. Baby is an animal up to 6 months that they're brushing the undercoat from, and then they're spinning it into the yarn. They produce their yarn in extremely ethical manner. You know, yak is a bit complicated. A lot of sources are coming from China where we can't really know what is happening behind the scene. And for me, for example, it's important that it's cruelty free, and Tibetan Fibers really make sure it is cruelty free. It is quite pricey, and you're getting 300 meters per 50 grams, which is a little bit more thick than our usual mohair thread. So be aware of that and make sure you gauge swatch before you start your project. But overall, yak is warmer than most wools out there. I'm not sure if it's warmer than mohair, but I am sure it's warmer than merino wool and most yarns out there. So I would definitely recommend you trying yak. The color palette is very natural in these earthy tones, very dusty, muted colors. I love such colors. I'm looking at it and I'm losing my words as usually. I'm so much in love with the dusty deep shades, but maybe for people who love bright colors, they won't find anything. There's only one or two very bright colors, so that could be a little bit of a negative point, but the very aggressive dyeing process could make it very damaging to the fiber. So I really appreciate that they made a balance between making very beautiful colors and preserving the softness and sustainability of the whole process. So definitely recommend trying. So finally we got two alpaca options, and we're starting from Suri alpaca, which is a very popular mohair replacement lately on the market. So the first one is Lana Grossa Setasuri lace weight, and right now I'm wearing Setasuri Big, their thicker version, and I needed the whole cardigan in it. So I'm wearing it on the pure skin, there's nothing under, and I feel extremely soft. So I'm in love with this yarn. I would love to try their thin version. A thin version is 210 meters per 25 grams as a usual mohair meterage, and you have 69% of sur alpaca and 31% of silk, which is a brilliant option. On average, it costs the same as good quality mohairs out there in the market, and I think it's definitely worth trying. The color palette is very standard. You could find bright colors or muted colors, some beige tones or neutrals. Lana is a German company, but it is extremely popular worldwide. You could find it in the US, you could find it in Canada or Australia. It is quite popular and it is definitely worth trying. The next alpaca option looks exactly like silk mohair. Well, Lana Grossa, the previous one, is also looking like that, but this one is even presented in the ball like most mohairs are. So this is a Kremke soul wool, and this is a baby silk lace solid. This is how they call this yarn. The meterage is the same, 210 meters per 25 grams. And they're not saying that it's a sur alpaca, they're just saying that it's the finest alpaca, which is 70% and 30% silk. It looks extremely soft, and I know that Kremke soul wool has very soft yarns. Their mohair is extremely soft. Their alpaca, all of the alpacas are extremely soft. Their alpaca boucle is also super soft. So I never tried this yarn, but I have a good feeling about it. The colors are not so many, quite limited, I would say. There's some dusty colors. There are just 3 bright colors, so that is a little bit of a flaw, I would say, because colors are important. I would love them to make more of the color palette, but overall it's a brilliant yarn that I'm really suggesting you to try. It is fluffy as mohair, it looks like mohair, and I would love to feel the garment on my skin with this alternative. The next alternative is Rowan fine lace, my dream yarn to try as an additional thread. This is an 80% sur alpaca, but not fluffy. It is quite smooth, and they probably used very long fibers, not the undercoat of sur alpaca, but these long fibers. If you look at the picture of sur alpaca, it is very hairy, very cute animal with these long fibers down the floor, and I think they used the long fibers for this production. So it's 80% of this long sur alpaca fibers and 20% extra fine wool. There is no silk content, but it looks like silk because it's so shiny. I saw this yarn in the yarn shop. I tried it. It's extremely smooth, extremely soft. It has 400 meters per 50 grams, and they don't sell the 25-gram balls. It is a little bit pricey, but when you look that is actually 50 grams, you then realize that, well, it's actually a very good price. You're getting 200 meters per 25 grams in the end of the day. So the color palette is extremely beautiful. Personally for me, right? Maybe for people who love very bright colors, again, very screaming colors, they don't have this in the palette. But for me, I have a lot of dusty shades, a lot of dusty rose, dusty purples, dusty blues, very tasty, rich colors that are quite unique to find for commercial production, I would say. I see a lot of hand-dyed yarns with this type of interesting, very complex colors. So my applause to Rowan Fine Lace, and I'm really recommending you to try this option. And the brother to the yarn that I just spoke about is Alpaca Rhythm by Sheepjes, which is a Dutch brand. It's extremely similar. It's the same actually. It's 80% alpaca and 20% extra fine wool. I don't know if it's a sur alpaca. It doesn't say that it's a sur alpaca, so probably not, but it's extremely soft. I tried this yarn again in the yarn shop. And it looks and feels the same as Rowan Fine Lace, but they do sell 25-gram balls, which is a very good side. So as I mentioned, for Rowan Fine Lace, you couldn't really find bright colors, and that is maybe a disadvantage for those who love them. And Alpaca Rhythm from Sheepjes is quite bright, so I personally don't really find a lot of colors for me, but again, take a look, maybe you would fall in love with them. So if we combine Rowan Fine Lace and Alpaca Rhythm in terms of color selection, we have all range that we could be completely satisfied with. So one more thing to say about such yarns, they look quite smooth and even in the thread, but once you block them, they start to fluff up. They don't fluff up in the same way as, you know, those fuzzy sur alpacas that I spoke before. They fluff up with the more long fibers, but as soon as they're soft, they're going to be pleasant to the skin. So I would say they will also create a little halo, but in a way more gentle way. The next option is 100% alpaca. I actually have this yarn in my stash, which is Alpakka Følgetråd from Sandnes Garn. They have 50-gram balls, and each one of them them contains 400 meters. The color palette is extremely beautiful. You have both bright options and dusty options. You have neutrals, quite a few beiges. You have pure whites. You have a lot of grays, blue gray, warm gray. You have browns. Yes, it's really, really beautiful yarn. I'm knitting my husband a whole hoodie with this yarn as an additional thread, and it works quite well. And I would love to also, you know, wear it and try when it's ready to realize how am I sensitive to this yarn. I wouldn't say it's extremely soft, but it is very soft. So I would say also again, try maybe with a cardigan first and see how you feel about it. I find it a very good price as well for 400 meters. But again, the flaw of such yarns that they don't produce the balls of 25 grams. Because let's say I'm knitting a whole sweater and I'm just missing 50 grams of such yarn, I would have to buy 400 meters more and I will have a huge leftover, which is not very comfortable. Otherwise, this is a very beautiful option as well. And the last option for this video is the softest alpaca that I could find ever. I touched this yarn in the yarn shop. This is a baby alpaca thread from Kremke Soul Wool as well. It's called Baby Alpakka Lace. It's the same yarn weight as the previous yarn, is 400 meters per 50 grams, and it is a baby alpaca of 22 to 24 microns. A micron is the diameter of the hairs, actually, and the cashmere has between 22 and 26 microns. I tried this yarn in the yarn shop. I touched it next to my neck. I was so much in love with this. I was just standing like this and smiling because it was unbelievably soft. I'm really recommending this option. I left it as the last one because for me it's the best option, to be honest. So the price on their official website is €12 per 50 gram. And again, the negative side is that you cannot buy 25 grams. But for the price, the quality is insane, and it is going to fluff up a little bit. It is going to give you a little fuzz that some people are seeking from mohair. Just you need to wash the garment a few times and later it's going to open up that fluff. So the color palette is not so rich. I would find some yarns for myself from this color palette, but again, I would love them to expand the palette because the quality of yarn is incredible, super soft, super amazing, impressive, but the colors are quite poor. There are a lot of neutrals, there are a few bright ones, but I know that a lot of people love different colors, and yeah, I would love them to have more colors in their palette, hopefully for the future. As you can see, I got very excited speaking about these options. That means they were truly in my heart and in my wish list. A lot of them I'm already trying or I tried before in my past. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you had fun the same as I did. I hope you found something for yourself exciting to try for your next projects. And please let me know your feelings towards different contents of yarn. That will help me expand my understanding of fiber, which I'm always excited about. Thank you very much again, and I'm hoping to see you soon in my next video.